It's ladies and gentlemen, it is 5:30 and I'm going to call the meeting of the Community Development Authority, that's the Middleton Community Development Authority for May 12th, 2022 to order. And the first item is the roll call. Abby.
Barker.
Present.
Barron.
Present.
Nelson.
Here.
Oakes.
Here.
Olson.
Here.
Furlong. Didn't see Kieran join. Weber. I didn't see Chris either. And Brar is present.
All right. The way to go, I think they will catch up. So, well, as you know, I missed my first CDA meeting. That was the last one because I was on my way from California to coming here. So, okay, I need the motion for the approval of the minutes. I did go through the minutes. Everything looked good. So those who were here, one of those ready to make a motion?
This is Barron. I move that we accept the committee minutes from last meeting.
All right, need a second?
I'll second. This is Katie.
Okay, now questions or comments? Any changes? I think Abby did a great job in recording this. Okay, all those in favor of the approving the Community Development Authority minutes of April 14th, 2022 to say aye.
Aye.
Those opposed? All right. Okay, we are on to the agenda item number 1. This is the CDA financial reports. Abby.
Yeah, so there's not a lot of changes since the last report, but I did want to highlight just a couple of things. Right now, in terms of our income, we have all of our tenants are current on their rent. The only items that we haven't seen a transfer in yet on are the Hubbard Activity Center because that only comes in biannually, and then the rent for the Middleton Station parking. On the event sponsorship line, it's showing $0 spent year to date, but that's not accounting for the $2,000 that was allocated to the Art Walk and the $2,000 to National Mustard Day. That's just because it's based on seeing copies of the invoices and the dollars paid before we pay out the sponsorship. On the banner item, we got some good news from the tourism department. They're going to be doing a full replacement of the city banners this year, and they're going to be scaling it back, and they're much needed. I was going along Terrace Avenue the other day, and I noticed that some of the pictures are so faded, they look like they're black and white now. So they look really bad, but tourism is replacing them all. And usually we have to cover the cost for PKK's labor to take them down and put them up, but tourism's quote came in lower than they had anticipated and lower than they had budgeted for. So they're going to also cover the costs for PKK to put them all up and take the old ones down. On the marketing assistance, I need to flag this for finance because this should say the budget is 0 now. That was one of the lines that we zeroed out when we created the part-time position. So I'll talk with our finance department about that. I know that they had made the other correction that I had asked for in the reports, but I noticed when I was going over this that that's still incorrect there. The part-time downtown marketing position is live right now. So if you know anyone who's interested, please pass it along. The city is hiring for a number of positions right now. So anyone who has anyone who's looking for a position, please share all of the opportunities that we have.
Abby, did you hear Mike Davis? I'm just kidding.
Yeah, I don't know. I tried to cajole him, but I don't think it's going to happen for us.
Well, Dan Parker got his hand up. He knows somebody. Dan? you want to-
No, thank you. I was just curious if you'd seen any applications coming yet.
No, but our process is that we don't see them until the position is closed. The only person who has access to them is our human resources director. So I won't really know how it's going until the application period closes and he has time to do the pre-screening of the applications.
Good to know. Thank you.
Kathy Olson.
Abby, what was the $790 under miscellaneous expenses? Do you know what that was offhand?
That's a great question. And I had that on my list that I wanted to look that up and try to refresh my memory myself. And I wrote down the account code here on my notes page, but I didn't
Okay.
go and look it up. Let me see if I can quickly get on there and check that out.
I feel like
And
you
while you
told
are,
us this before, Abby, and I just can't remember what you said.
Well, this
Yeah.
actually just getting in April, right? Is
Oh,
that
it's
what I'm
new?
reading here?
Okay. I still,
Was that a plus or a minus? The line item.
Minus.
I was thinking maybe, I remember Mike was talking about maybe getting money back for the snow plowing. I don't know if it was that.
No, I don't think it's that. And I was thinking maybe it's the senior center window cleaning because we had talked about that,
Oh.
Kathy, but that wouldn't come out of that item. I think it would come out of the senior center building.
Well, if they're
maintenance.
paying $790 to wash windows, I'm gonna apply for that job.
Yeah, I don't think that that's it. Let me. see.
Well, didn't we take the coating and all the stuff off the windows?
Did that come off?
No,
Oh,
we wanted to
Oh.
do that, but that unfortunately, that can't be done without replacing the glass completely.
Oh, that's right.
I wish we could do that.
and then it's not landscaping because we have all that.
I'm pulling up our accounting software. It's just kind of a big program, so it takes a minute to load, so I apologize.
And we were going to borrow out of the fund to pay for somebody that came up last meeting that was looking. Wasn't gallery walk, was it?
Make Music Middleton.
Did we have to fund something ahead of time for that though?
We had
did.
$300 and some dollars.
Oh,
Yeah, but when I went back and listened to the video on that, somebody specifically mentioned using funding out of the event sponsorship for that.
Mhm.
Oh, I know what it is. I apologize. It's taking down here, let me pull it up here. It's PKK lighting, and it was the cost to remove the lighting from
Oh, yeah,
things
yeah, yeah.
prior to
Yeah, yeah,
construction.
yeah.
So I'm sorry about that. I had totally forgotten.
That's okay. That's perfectly.
well, the good part is that we don't have to pay for those lights anymore. So while we are talking about this, do you know who else is joining us here? Our very own new city administrator, Brian Ghetto. He's going to say, he might consider saying hello to all of us.
Hi, everybody. Nice to meet all of you who have not met in person yet, at least to see you virtually, and hope to get a chance to meet all of you in person in the next couple of weeks here.
Wow, let's give him a big hand. Boy, super duper. Great guy. Thank you, Brian. Go ahead, Abby.
That was really all that I had on the financial report.
Any further questions other than $790? So I thought that was $791. I'm just kidding. Any other questions for Abby? Well, so do you need any motion to approve, or I
No.
guess that may be a good idea. So need a motion to approve the financial report.
I'll
Mayor,
make the
I think
motion.
we usually treat this as an informational item, if I'm remembering. I don't think we usually take
So
action.
Abby, just the information. Thank you for the information, Abby. So,
Thank you, Mayor.
and then we move on to the big thing here. This is item number 2. This is the referral from Workforce Housing Committee, recommendation for an affordable home ownership strategy in Middleton. We all want affordable homes in Middleton. Who's gonna take it? Abby?
Sure. Yep. This is one of the last initiatives that Mike worked on before he retired. And it's a problem that we hear about quite frequently at City Hall. And the question is always, why isn't there more owner-occupied housing being constructed? We've seen a lot of multifamily renter housing, especially over the last 5 years or so. And that the reason that we're seeing a lot of infill development is because we don't really have a whole lot of growth area in the city. We have a really desirable community, and we have a lot of opportunities for infill. We're starting to see a lot of vacancies along major transportation corridors like University Avenue. And those kinds of opportunities aren't going to be appealing for single family housing. It's just not going to be a good fit. You need to increase density along major corridors. We want to make our transit system more viable. And so then the next question that we hear is, okay, well, you know, if it has to be multifamily, why can't it be condominiums and have owner occupied units instead of renter housing? And there are a lot of financial constraints. Mike linked to an article from the Urban Institute that talks about the FHA involvement in that and some of the changes that were made during the Great Recession that have led to a lack of condo opportunities. And it's not just a challenge on the part of the developer to get financing to build a condo. It also it's very challenging for somebody that is looking to purchase a condo unit because there are some strict lending requirements. So it's really not, right now, it's not really a good option for trying to get somebody into a new housing unit to build equity so that they can then, you know, eventually afford to buy a single family home. It's just due to federal requirements, it's just really challenging. And so our Common Council had asked us to put together a report on what kinds of opportunities might exist. And so Mike worked with some members of our Workforce Housing Committee and put together 6 ideas. I would note that aside from the option to extend the life of the TIF district, even if we were to do all of these options, we're probably looking at maybe 60 new units of housing. I mean, this is looking to identify small opportunities. It's not looking to completely solve the problem of housing affordability in Middleton. We don't really have any ideas for how to do that. It's very, very difficult. But the Workforce Housing Committee and the council both wanted the CDA's input on that because of the CDA's past involvement with the down payment assistance program and also the state statute that guides community development authorities in Wisconsin, talks about not only the initiatives related to downtown revitalization, but it also talks about workforce housing. And so I have the memo in your packet and I'm open to any comments or questions.
All right, so, well, I can start. I think it's, you know, the Mike and the Workforce Housing Committee has really done a great job, no question about it. So they have come up with, you know, all those things which we have talked about, you know, starting from the land bank to the Habitat for Humanity, our down payment, which CDA used to do, and reuse some of the downtown land, and then TIF statute extension, and then asking the residents that how can we do it. I think they covered really the whole field. And yeah, I think the one part where we could play a very significant role is the down payment, which we used to give. And it was $15,000 at the time. I don't know if 15,000 will go very far right now. But I'm open to the ideas. Kari Oaks has her hands up. Kari, go ahead, please.
Thank you. I mean, I guess I want to say, first of all, I'm really glad that the CDA has this issue on its agenda. It kind of moves us more into some of the other things that are within our mandate as a committee. And I'm happy that we're being asked to weigh in on this. And so the first about the land bank, like I know there are really successful land banks in some parts of the country. Like I happen to know there's one in the city of Kingston, New York, because like I follow the guy on Instagram who runs it or whatever, and it's super successful, but they have a wealth of distressed properties to choose from and we really don't. And so I think it's a great model, but I am not sure that we really are the real estate market that would have a great path to success for that. I love the idea of partnering with Habitat for Humanity or something similar like that. But then I also wanted to ask the advice of the experts who are here about what your idea or perception is of the, like zero lot line homes are a great idea and a great model, and you can get a little bit of yard space and it can be a great thing for a growing family. And there are cities and suburbs where that works great for first-time home ownership, and it's a little different than condos. What's your perception of why uptake for that has been slow, like especially here, but in our area in general?
Abby, you want to answer that before we ask Kathy Olson, or somebody else could answer
Well,
that?
Kari, when you say zero lot line, are you talking about like townhomes that are on their own separate parcel of land, but they're attached to other homes? So it's a zero side yard lot line?
Well, that's my understanding of how the Conservancy Bend residences were envisioned.
Yeah.
They were not set at an affordable price point for a host of reasons, but yes, and you can go, to maybe more urban areas or close ring suburbs in a lot of big cities, and that's exactly how homes are built and sold, and people raise families in them. And maybe we just are not urban enough for that, but I'm just wondering.
Yeah, I don't know why there aren't that many, but with the Conservancy Bend project, because of the construction costs that they incurred, those ones were priced at over 500,000.
Right.
And they tried to sell them for 6 months and they didn't get any buyers. And so they petitioned the city to rent them instead. I did talk to another developer with Encore Homes who has done that same type of housing unit in Fitchburg. And he said that he's got it figured out. He's done it in other neighborhoods, and he's been able to replicate it and make it successful. And I went and took a look at it, and I can't remember the name of the neighborhood in Fitchburg, but it's the one that has all the salad. Every street is named after a different type of like lettuce, like Refugio Drive, or I don't remember, but I mean, the units look very nice, and he wants to incorporate those into the acre development that's underway right now, but they're still 350 to 400,000. They're not like 250, they're still not affordable. But they're better than a new single family home.
Yeah, and then I just had one quick follow-up and then I'll shut up. But I know there are a couple, I should have pulled it up ahead of time, also a couple of neighborhoods in Southwest Madison and those suburbs that are doing like almost cottage-like pods with shared green space and maybe even an HOA. It's not a condo, it's single family ownership. And the homes are quite modest in size, but nice. And because I was looking at these for my mom a little bit, and they were pretty relatively affordable. And I was just wondering if anybody had explored that. No, I'm done.
Abby?
He's the same developer, Chad Whippen with Encore, is also planning that type of housing in Acre. So he's got like, the little cottage homes that are in the low 1,000 square foot new construction with the shared green spaces. I don't know the price point yet on that, but he is planning on incorporating that into that project.
Well, so we are doing something. So next one is Kathy Olson, then Belinda.
Yeah, I
Kathy?
have a bunch of questions, so I'll just ask a few and then I can come back to the rest of it. You just mentioned the acre projects and what the kinds of things they're doing. Would those be considered workforce housing then, the smaller pods, or is that?
Well,
Is
we
that what-
usually say workforce housing is affordable at 80% of area median income for owner occupied housing, and I kind of doubt it.
Okay,
I highly doubt it.
okay, all right. And then when we talk about Habitat, they typically do like single homes or duplexes. They wouldn't do like a big building, would they? Or that's not their typical model, is it?
Yeah, Mike seemed to think that they were open to doing condos, and he has a bit more experience with Habitat than I do. What I'm familiar with is the smaller single family homes, like what they've built on Amherst Road, and I think Friendship has a couple of them in Middleton.
Okay.
I'm not familiar with the larger ones that they do.
The other question, and I don't think I asked it quite right at the council meeting, was on the TIP when it retires, and then you have 1 year to invest in workforce housing. Could those funds be used to buy into like a land trust, or do they have, so could we buy property and own it then using that TIP funds that are available at the end of the TIF?
I haven't heard anything that would preclude us from doing that. I think that we should, as we get closer to the closure, we should create a game plan, because like Larry mentioned at the council meeting, we're going to have 1 year. So we need to know, what the plan is and what we intend to do. But I have always thought that would be a good option, is that we could actually look at buying and land banking property.
But we could close out TIF 3 and use it in TIF 5. Would that be true? We could use it anywhere in Middleton, just
Yes, anywhere in the city. It doesn't have to be in a TIP district.
and the same with like the down payment assistance. That wasn't just based on the downtown area. That was anywhere in the city.
Yeah, it
Right.
just has to be used for affordable housing activities.
Okay.
Thank you,
And
Brian.
my last question, I just want to comment on surveying residents, which to me seems like it'd be really difficult, because what we're trying to do is get people to move into Middleton. And I don't know, how do you reach out to people that have the just thinking about moving here? We could survey all the people that already live here, or would it be like there are people who are renting now? We could do that, I guess. So that's all I have.
And Brian piped up a
Excellent,
bit, but
excellent.
Brian, when you were in Monona, didn't you take advantage of the TID closure?
We did, yeah. This was probably 3 or 4 years ago. We had a TIF district that was closing. We kept it open for an additional year and captured like 1.7 million. And so we have a kind of multifaceted affordable housing, down payment assistance, home rehab program, so that people that are in older housing stock can use some money to rehab the house to keep it up to today's standards and make it more livable for families so they stay in the community. And then the down payment assistance program, I think is a great opportunity. And Monona is also looking at adding a first generational home buyer component to it, which is great. I think the rub is the marketing for that program. If we were to reestablish it here in Middleton, how do we get the information out to potential buyers and existing property owners to let them know that the program exists? Because that was the one challenge I had in Monona, is getting enough people to know about it to make it kind of worth the time to go through applications. So if we do that, and I think we should absolutely consider keeping over in TIF district number 3 for an extra year to capture that increment, but we should think about how we market that.
And also when we close TIF 3, that's going to be lots of money. You're talking about between 12 and $14 million. So next one, Belinda, you had your hand up, but if you have something, it's your turn, and then it will be Dan Barker, then Katie.
Yeah, Kathy addressed one of my questions, and I actually found another one in the document as I was going through it. Is there any level of correlation between this and the lower number of students we have coming into the school systems? Is this a direct correlation to that?
Oh, good question.
That's a great question, and I don't know the answer to it, but a couple of things that might be related. One is that the school district has told us that multifamily renter housing is highly unlikely to generate students in the district unless it's workforce housing. So Lori Ames, who I think recently retired from the school district, said the city needs to make them aware of new workforce housing developments so that they can use that in their calculations for students, but that if it's market rate, it doesn't really generate students for them. So that you might be onto something there, Belinda. And then the other thing that I recently heard from the school district superintendent is that the reason that the part of the reason why the school district's numbers right now are lower than they had anticipated is due to the pandemic and families deciding when the schools closed to go to a private option, and then they haven't come back. So I think this, if I understood what she was saying correctly, she had a number of reasons why the numbers are a bit lower than they had anticipated, but that was one of them.
Okay. It's just
Any other
interesting. I mean,
questions?
there's just so many apartments going up, and I wasn't, when you talk about workforce housing, can you give me better understanding of what is captured in workforce housing?
Yeah, I was gonna actually try to pull up the, I don't think that Mike put it in his memo, but WIDA annually releases a chart that shows the income levels that are required to be met. Workforce housing is housing that's affordable to somebody where they're not having to pay more than 30% of their income towards rent. And so it really depends on the income level of the household and what's affordable, and also the size of the household. It's my least favorite question to get, because people will be like, well, what rent amount is affordable? And I'm like, oh gosh, it depends on a number of factors. What percentage of AMI the household is at, how many people they have in their household. So it's kind of complicated. But let me see if I can pull up this document for you.
Yeah, actually saw a table somewhere, Abby, so I don't know where that is. So.
Yeah, did Mike, I didn't see that in his document. Here it is. It's called the Standard NTSP. And WIDA releases this document annually. Let me see if I can pull it up here.
Mike
So
has
this
in
is-
here 103 for a family of 3 in Dane County. 103,000 would be median income. So
Okay, yeah, so so this breakdown that WIDA offers, I mean, this is 30% of area median income, and they list it by county
wow.
and by family size. 30% is very low income. Let me see if we can get to like a 50% just to kind of show you. Okay, so at 50% of county median income in Dane County, for a 1-person household, that's just over $40,000. For a 2-person household, it's $46,000. And then what that correlates to in terms of rent at 50%, an affordable rent for an efficiency is just over $1,000. For a 1-bedroom, it's just under $1,100. Just to give you an idea, one of the things that they don't list in this MTSP document is 80% of area median income, because WIDA doesn't typically provide incentives for 80%. They only focus on 60% or less, but you can calculate 80% just by taking this, dividing it by, you know, this is 60%. So you divide this by 6 and then you multiply it by 8, and then you have the 80% limits for all of these. And for owner, what the Workforce Housing Committee has tried to do is incentivize renter occupied housing that's at 60% or less than AMI, and to incentivize owner occupied housing that would be affordable at 80% or less.
Yeah, I think I was just trying to get an understanding of what you would have to do to achieve support for that. Where would it have to come in?
Yeah.
Any more questions, Belinda, or you're? Okay, so the next one is Dan Barker, then Katie Nelson.
Thank you, Mayor. Statement, then a question. The statement is that if we have no other motions, I'd like to at least motion the CDA's commitment to work with workforce housing moving forward. And then on to my question, as far as the down payment assistance, I don't want to say families and I don't want to say people. So I'm going to say, how many like units does that help out? Does it turn into kind of a lottery where and I'm gonna just say it, where like 3 families win and get that down payment assistance. Thank you.
Abby, you want to answer it? I think it was at least 15 or 20. Go ahead.
Yeah, the way that the down payment assistance program worked previously is it was just basically on a first come, first served basis. There were qualification requirements. We also struggled with the same thing that Monona struggled with in terms of getting the word out about the opportunity. I didn't really handle the program. It was mostly before I came to work for the city, but I manage it now because we still have 5 loans that are being repaid. But it is, you know, it's a challenge because even with the CDA providing funding to do, I think it was around $150,000 that the CDA provided, but that can only really help, you know, about 10 households. So, you know, it is kind of a first come, first serve basis unless there are other requirements that are put in place for, you know, like, you know, one of the things Brian mentioned, I like that idea of trying to go with a first generational home buyer, you know, something like that, making it a little bit more stringent.
Thanks, Abby. Yeah, if you can, we can explore where maybe we can spread it out more. And I don't know if that means renters. To me, being at a spot bearing renting versus owning, I was more starting out, so that would be more impactful. But again, it would be unfortunate if only a select percent of our population were able to enjoy that benefit. Thank you.
Thank you, Dan. Next one is Katie Nelson.
Thanks. Just a thought about getting the word out about the down payment assistance program. I'm wondering if real estate companies would be amenable to helping customers with that information. Also, with jobs where workforce housing folks are more likely to be working, like at schools when they hire a new teacher, could we get the information to the Middleton schools so that if they hire a new teacher, we can give them that information? Or like a new police officer is hired, something like that. Those are just my thoughts, and maybe I'm being Captain Obvious there, but and I don't know also that if real estate brokers are not interested, because does that do something to their commission? But anyway, just thoughts. Thanks.
Thank you, Katie. Kathy Olson. Well,
Yeah.
somebody want to answer it? Go ahead.
So I just want to quick add on to her comments. I think in addition to those couple places, the one other place that I'd suggest we spend some time marketing with is the local financial institutions. It was my experience in Monona, kind of restarting the Renew Monona loan program. We just really struggled making a connection to get banks to understand how the city loan program could be a nice bridge between kind of conventional financing to get people to make those decisions. So I think getting banks on board on the front end to know that, you know, we'd be happy to subjugate our agreement to theirs so that, you know, they're still in first position, all those kind of technical legal things that they have to go through. But I think being able to have a bank when they're meeting with a potential client to same as you would for the school district hiring new teachers, saying, here's the portfolio of different funding that's available to help get you in this house. And we would be part of that, you know, that package as an opportunity. So that would just be a third place I'd suggest we spend some time.
Excellent, Brian. Thank you. Kathy Olson.
Yeah, a question on the TIF. If you extend the life of the TIF for 1 year, you can use some of the money for workforce housing. Is there any way to take an advance on that? Like if a property came up on University Avenue that would be a good fit for workforce housing, is there a way to fund that before the TIF would close?
Abby or Brian.
I don't think so. We obviously can spend some time taking a look at that statute, but I think you have to have the money in hand, you know, after you've closed it, you know, taking that year to capture the increment, and then you can spend it, but I don't think you can take an advance on funds.
Okay. And then Abby, since you're administering you are administering the down payment assistance program, have you noticed any other ways of doing it that would streamline it or make it more useful? Or do you have any ideas on it?
Well, I mean, we don't have any funding, and we haven't had any funding since I took over the program. So my role has never really been to try to market it. So I don't really have any advice off the top of my head about that. I do think that it would be beneficial if we worked with an outside agency to manage the loans themselves.
Okay.
We did that in the beginning. The Wisconsin Partnership for Housing Development handled that for us. And now it's back on our plates, and it's just not really our area of expertise. So, you know, sending people invoices and being like, surprise, you owe us $10,000. It's not really.
No, that doesn't make you feel real warm. Oh, what was I gonna say that? Is there any, okay, when they take out the down payment assistance, there's an income limit, but as they move on in life and through the term of that loan, if their incomes grow, that doesn't count against them?
Not in the way that our program is set up. The
Do other
only,
programs have that?
Usually it's a snapshot in time that you purchase the house, and then
Okay.
you repay the loan back over, you know, whatever set time period, whether it's 10 years, 20 years, or upon the sale of the house. So if you get a loan for down payment assistance, and then 10 years down the road, you end up selling the house to somebody else, at that point, the note is callable and you have to pay back the full amount of the loan.
Mhm. Okay, because that can be a huge swing, like if you have a student, a grad student or somebody buying it, and then by the time that passes, they're in the higher income levels, so just a,
yeah, there
thought.
might be a way to put a student restriction on a program if we were gonna
we
restart.
had somebody pay back, I think one of the spouses was working and then one was in school, and then they, you know, went on and they paid it back because they were moving, I know, but
Yep.
you can't penalize people for moving up in the world, that's for sure.
Yeah, one thing that's been very successful about the program is how long people have stayed in their homes. I mean, it really was set up to encourage people to stay, and I'm surprised, you know, how many have not had a transaction since 07. They've been there in their home.
Really,
So I think that's a good thing.
yes.
Okay, more questions. Please raise your hands. I do not see any raised hands. Everybody want to do next? You think that you need any motions, or you think this input is good?
Well, Mike drafted this with the Workforce Housing Committee in the hopes that it could be incorporated into the strategic plan. And I don't know if that requires any formal action by the CDA, or if you just want me to pass along the minutes from this meeting to the Workforce Housing Committee.
Okay, so, well, if one would have to make a motion, what would that be? I mean, we certainly, well, we had a good discussion. There are parts which we like, and the parts which are doable, the other parts are not. So, Kai?
Mr. Mayor, I think the motion could be directing the city administrator to incorporate this document into the draft strategic plan as an appendices, so that it's referenced throughout, you know, where appropriate, referenced throughout the strategic plan as a kind of supporting and developmental document to that larger strategic plan.
Okay, make that motion. So need a second. And then Kari. Oh,
This is Barker, second.
okay, Kari Oaks. Kari.
Thank you, Mayor. I was just going to say that I think Dan had begun to make such a motion earlier, so.
Okay, well, we got the motion, we got the second. Any further discussion?
I have a question on that. The community campus planning committee hasn't really discussed this yet. And this would only be recommended from the Community Development Authority to place in the strategic plan. And the community campus planning committee would have to make a similar motion. Would that be correct? Because they're also called out in here?
Well, so as you know, the Community Campus Committee is meeting on Tuesday. The way that I've kind of thought about that is the Community Campus Committee's focus right now is figuring out where the public buildings are going to go. And the private development, that can kind of be sorted out and figured out as a second step in the plan. But the primary focus right now that we're working on with the architects is figuring out where we want the the civic space. So maybe I could put this on the community campus committee agenda for their next meeting, just as kind of a flagging it for them early, but I don't think we're in any big rush to get their approval.
Okay, I just want to make sure when we're going through that planning, that we're not saying, well, we have to allow space for this and we got to have a building here and can't have one here because we're going to do this, and that it's not at that level yet.
Okay,
So,
yeah, that makes sense, Kathy.
okay.
Okay.
Do you want me to put it on their next meeting agenda after not the Tuesday one, but whenever they meet
Sure.
next? Okay.
Sure.
Any further questions or comments? Any further questions or comments? Otherwise, all those in favor of the motion say aye.
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 Anyone opposed? Okay, we are on to item number 3, discussion of music at the tap and fall fund for the Stonehorse Green.
Yep, and on your last meeting, we said that we would keep this on the agenda. I don't really have much of an update on this, except that in terms of like whether the CDA wanted to have some music events downtown, Andrea Van Nest has been working on getting Make Music Middleton set up, and she got our website set up today. She's listed the CDA as a sponsor, and we are starting to include venues for that. So one thought that I had is, you know, since the Stonehorse Green is torn up right now, maybe we kind of ditch the idea of doing any music yet this summer. Instead focus our efforts toward the Make Music Day and then look at the fall for Stonehorse Green.
So there was some ideas to do in the green space close to the city hall. I think does sound like a good idea, doesn't it?
That is one of the locations for Make Music Day, but Make Music Day falls on a Tuesday this year. It's the summer solstice. So Tuesday, June 21st. And we're going to have 2 events down there. One is going to be flower pot music, where kids bang around on flower pots. And that's part of the Make Music organization. The recreation department is going to organize that. And then we're also going to have the senior center has a band that's made up of their members. And we're hoping that they're going to play at that green space next to City Hall. And then we're going to invite residents to come down and bring a picnic lunch and then enjoy the senior center band that night.
Well, that's excellent. I think, more programs we could have there, the better. So I know first thought was the tap, and then I did read that discussion that it may seem like if we are sponsoring or helping one business over the other. So we could still have one event there, 1 or 2, that won't hurt. But as long as they're distributed over the city, not just, in one part, that would be a good thing. So any questions or comments? Please raise your hands. Any further questions or comments? Okay, all right. Kathy Olson and then
Yeah.
Katie.
Just a quick question, comment. Well, I don't think it's a lot different than when last year we had the summer fun and it was closer to other businesses. And I don't think that moving it to another place is going to should be conceived as helping another business out, because it's just where things are happening. And I also wanted to comment on, I saw the post for the Make Music, and the logo that they used for the Community Development Authority was great, because we talked about doing that a while ago, but this one is really nice and small and it looks really nice. So liked it.
Excellent, Kathy.
Nice.
Katie Nelson.
Well, this idea comes via our new alder, Kendra Wokus. She wrote to me about an idea for having during the concerts on the green space next to City Hall. She wondered if young people would be able to be kind of hired as runners to bring food from different restaurants to the green space, and that maybe it could be a fundraiser for their groups that they're working with, or could be their volunteer hours for high school or something like that. And the idea is fully Kendra's, but if we're worried about taking business away from certain areas, that might be a solution.
Sounds like a good idea.
That's really cool. I love that idea.
And,
Yeah.
and let Kendra, would you want to make her in charge or be, somehow sort of develop this program and see whether she wants to handle it?
I would happily ask her if that's something she wants to do.
Yeah, ask her. I mean, when you have an idea, you also have a plan. So I
Yeah.
think she probably has a plan, and let's do it. Yes.
All right, I will send her a note.
Andrea Van Nest. Go ahead, please.
Thank you. Just a quick update. They're not requiring service hours in high school anymore, just so everybody knows. So they,
wow.
not to say that kids don't still want to volunteer, but it is no longer a requirement for graduation.
Thank you.
Yeah, that
Well-
was, yeah, that changed, I think during the pandemic, but I don't think it was purely related to the pandemic.
Okay. Well, the kids would still enjoy it. They can raise money for their
Mhm,
causes.
Mhm.
And they will have good time. And the grown-ups would also love to see the kids doing some of those things. I think this is a win-win. So any other questions or comments? Well, otherwise, this was very productive meeting. And if you don't really need any motion, Abby, here, right?
No, just, I guess if you could just indicate whether you want me to keep it on the agenda for the next meeting.
What do you think? I think it can't hurt, right?
Okay, I'll leave it on.
Okay. Okay, motion to adjourn.
I'll move to adjourn, folks.
Need a second.
I'll second. This is Katie.
Okay. And let's say thank you to Brian. He was very productive, great input. All those in favor of the motion to adjourn say aye.
Aye.
Hi.
And everybody was very productive and provided great input, by the way. Thank you and good night.
Thank you.
Night, everybody.
Thanks, everybody.
We are adjourned.